Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Hashtag, what is non-physical domestic violence? In the world of trending, this octane abuse is worthy of such attention. You know what physical violence is. You would be troubled if your sister's husband was physically abusing her. Such violence can potentially lead to death, as we are reminded again in the O.J. Simpson miniseries. There is universal understanding in a man's fist and her bruises, his hands choking her neck, knocking her to the ground and kicking her. We know this brute force is savage. Hashtag, what is non-physical domestic violence? Is it this inhumane and frightening? Yes, every bit. All domestic violence is a pattern of hurtful and abusive behaviors used to maintain power and control over an intimate partner. This is the abuser's MO, whether he's beating the victim with balled-up hands or a slew of mental aggression relay. He just uses different abuses to subordinate his victim. Furthermore, drugs, alcohol, stress, or any other factor does not cause domestic violence. The need to exert power and control is the cause of domestic violence. I am a survivor. I lived in my husband's gaslighting, a form of non-physical domestic violence, for 20 years. I am passionate about education in non-physical domestic violence because I had no idea that I was being abused, nor did anyone, because he did not hit me. Instead, he used stealth forms of non-physical violence to hurt and control me. Forms of non-physical domestic violence includes emotional, mental, cyberstalking, economic, gaslighting, and more. The latter are covert abuses that are difficult to detect. Often, like my husband, abusers who commit these cunning forms of violence present as nice guys, successful and likable, and this mask conceals protection even further. 1 in 4 American women will experience domestic violence. Non-physical violence awareness is a conversation we need to be having with our children, especially our daughters. Hashtag, what is non-physical domestic violence? It is emotional and mental abuse, terms that are used interchangeably. The abuser uses his tongue as a weapon. It includes insults, belittling, badgering, yelling, threats, profanity, and more. Other psychological forms include neglect, false allegations, isolation, intimidation, scapegoating, exploitation, terrorizing, and more. Many victims internalize and assume the treatment is warranted, and they are at fault. Also, emotional abuse may manifest inward as depression or outward as rage. Hashtag, what is non-physical domestic violence? It is cyberstalking. With the digital platform, the abuser has a new arsenal to stalk the victim's activities, thoughts, and whereabouts. Most victims do not know they are being watched in this way. It includes reading emails and text messages, monitoring internet search history, use of keystroke hardware to access passwords, using social media to keep constant tabs on the victim, accessing online accounts to monitor, and more. Cyberstalking is a deeper level of violence. Abusive partners who stalk are likely to engage in other cruel abuses. The integrated mix of these abuses can lead to anxiety, panic, depression, PTSD symptoms, and thoughts of suicide in the victim. Hashtag, what is non-physical domestic violence? It is economic abuse. The abuser obstructs the victim's access to money and forces her to depend on him financially. It includes not being allowed access to shared money, being forced to account for expenditures, having to ask for money, being prevented from getting or quitting a job. Abuser withholds money for food and shelter. Abuser hides money and assets. Without access to money, the victim who wants to leave is trapped. The abuser intentionally holds money to keep the victim from obtaining self-sufficiency. 98% of victims experience domestic violence, economic abuse. It is an abominable, but simple fact. The abuser will not let the victim go. Hashtag what is not physical domestic violence? It is gaslighting, a form of abuse that instills extreme anxiety and confusion in the victim. The abuser systematically presents false information to make the victim doubt her memory, perception, and sanity. Abusive acts range from omission and denial of facts to sophisticated fabrication and staging. It is an insidious set of manipulations that make it difficult for anyone, especially the victim, to discern that abuse exists. Over time, the victim's mental stability and sanity are undermined. In the most serious of cases, the victim will have a nervous breakdown, and in the worst, the victim will become suicidal, and that was me. In conclusion, I suffered all of these forms of domestic violence. Please, join the conversation and tweet one important fact you learned today. Help me get this Twitter hashtag to a viral campaign. Society must understand you do not have to be hit, beaten, slapped, punched to be living in debilitating and dangerous domestic violence. Thank you.